I spent a little bit over $24,000 on social media mentors and courses on Instagram and TikTok over the last 4 months. And in this episode, what I'm gonna do is talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And by the end of this, you're gonna know exactly what to look for in a course or mentorship, or maybe you're gonna find out that you shouldn't buy one at all. All that coming up in today's episode. All right, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome back to another episode of the Content, Coffee, and Communication Podcast, a show where we just talk about, all those things that I just mentioned. Content and coffee and community. Well, we don't really talk about coffee that much, but communication, sales, content, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, things that I've literally put my entire life in over the last 16, 17 years of my life. So that's what the show is about. If you're brand new, welcome. Would love to have you and stay and stick around for a little bit. So what we're going to talk about in this episode, as I mentioned there in the intro, and also very dramatic thumbnail, as well as the title of this episode, is I wasted $24,000 on social media coaches and courses, something along those lines. I haven't picked the title just yet, but it's going to be something along those lines. And you might be looking at that and it's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be some tea, right? Some really juicy gossip, some negative slander on specific course creators. And I just want to start off with a disclaimer. That's not what this is going to be. I'm not going to be mentioning any specific products or courses or mentorships or people in this episode, because that's not the point of it. The point of it is to really give you an idea of the decision-making processes and what I would recommend to look into when it comes to buying a course or mentorship or something online where someone's teaching you how to do things. And this could be for social media courses. Honestly, it could be for any course. I think, and there's statistics around this as well, is Forbes put out an article. I think they did a prediction that the e-learning industry, right, the online coaching industry, is going to be a $500 billion a year industry by 2026, 2027. So this industry is only going up, and you'd probably even noticed it. Since really 2020, when the world's kind of imploded, there's just been so many people that are figuring out that hey, I don't have to work in an office. I can create my own course and make more doing that and selling my experience other than working a traditional job. So I think the industry as a whole is going to continue to grow. And that just means that, of course, there's going to be more courses out there and make us, as consumers or creators as well, want to also buy into those courses. So I just want to start off with a disclaimer. I'm not going to mention any of those people. And this is not going to be me complaining in this episode. Again, just giving you these 3 steps or the 3 things that I would look at before you jump into a course. Because I think if you're this far into watching this, into this episode or on this YouTube channel, on this podcast, you're probably going to either have already bought a course in the past or are planning to do that because you're here for education and you want to get to those next steps a lot quicker because you're the smart one, right? So we're going to go over the 3 things here. And I actually wrote it down. I actually jumped into, so total, it was about 9 courses. And this ranges from some higher ticket ones, about $12,000 was one that I jumped into, or actually came out to probably about 15 by the end of it. So 15,000, and then everything else was the rest. So now I'm thinking about it, it might even be closer to 28,000 that was invested into it. Yeah, I need to talk to my accountant and get the final number there. But tax write-offs for the win. So anyway, all that being said, is out of all these courses, I should I say the ones that I'm happy with? I think that's good. Yeah, actually I will. So one specifically, so Find Your Peak was one of the first courses that I actually jumped into. It's these 3 people out of Canada. I forgot specifically. If you guys are watching this, I'm sorry. I'm a terrible American. Geography is not my strong suit. But Connor, Glenn, and Megan, all up, in the FYP crew. So they've actually built a course, and it's a low ticket product as of right now. I've been in the talks with them a little bit, and they're probably going to launch something a little bit higher ticket down the road. But huge shout out to them because they really hit a lot of the main things that I look for when it comes to courses. I believe I jumped in October, and it was $200, I think is what I jumped into for. And to be honest, I feel like I've gotten more value out of that $200 than I did the 15,000. And I'll talk about that a little bit more here in a second. But I'm not getting paid to say that at all. I'm not an affiliate. You can search up their stuff. I won't put their links because just search up Find Your Peak and you'll be able to find them. and you can jump into one of their programs. But it's just, there's a lot of course material. I think the main thing that I love about their program is the overall community aspect of it. It is, yeah, I mean, it's there's like 5,000 people in the community. People are always talking. I've made a good amount of like connections in that group, which I mean, more than pays for the information within the group itself. So huge shout out to them. And then another huge shout out to my guy, Omar El Takori. So his course program, mentorship, actually jumped into relatively recently. And it is, definitely higher ticket. So if you want to, go talk to him about it or talk to his sales team, you can. But I think just he really embodies a lot of what I'm going to talk about in, one of these sections here. I have 3 things I'm going to break down. But really 2 out of the 9 courses, I'd say those 2 are, I'm the most happy about. Maybe, when I've been in them a little bit longer, I can do like actual reviews. I think that could be pretty cool. But just overall, yeah, those are the 2 that I'm happy about. The rest of them, pretty much like just not the best. So I'm going to jump into these because I don't want this to be like a crazy long episode, but I do want you guys to get the value out of this of what to look for before you jump into the next program or course or whatever you're jumping into. So the first things first, and this is like, I'm just keeping the best for first. I'm not doing the whole best for last thing, but this is, I would say by far the most important thing that you look out for before you jump into a course. And that is making sure that the person is walking the walk and is continuing to walk the walk as they are, coaching you to do these types of things. And what I mean by that is I think there's a lot of courses, and this is just like the way that the coaching industry works for whatever reason. And I know I'm not going to lie, I did fall into this trap a good amount back when I first jumped into this whole online game. And what you're seeing a lot of coaches do these days is they walk the walk, and then they stop walking the walk and they teach how to walk the walk. And this is getting kind of confusing, but basically the easier way of saying that is a lot of coaches, they will do something for a season, right? They'll learn some stuff about it. They'll see some, some successes, and then they'll create a course around it, right? And what happens is when they create that course around it, that first iteration, it could be pretty good, right? Because they're like taking exactly what they did and then putting it into a course, and then that's all well and dandy. The problem that happens though is their attention goes from what they're doing within what they've done. Their attention goes into fulfilling on the course that they're selling, and then they stop doing what they were doing. So now they're coaching on something that they're not actively doing themselves. And the problem with that is, especially in something like social media coaching, is that the landscape is constantly changing, right? Algorithms always changing. The new features that are coming out there, what works and what doesn't, is always changing. So I would say the main reason why Omar and FYP, right, why those 2 are the ones that I recommend, is every other course that I jumped into is they fell into that trap of they coach a little bit, like they do their thing for a little bit, they figure out how to do it, and then they start coaching on it, and they stop doing the thing that they did. And again, it's like, when you're a social media coach, let's say you're coaching on Instagram, right? In the case of someone in here, right, is they built a pretty well-known, Instagram following. They launched a course and then stopped posting on Instagram. So it's like, why would I listen to the information of what you did a year ago to grow your account? Why would I listen to that and implement that today? Right? It just doesn't make sense. It's like, the classic, you wouldn't hire a fitness coach that's overweight, right? You wouldn't hire a financial advisor that's broke. You wouldn't hire, at least, I mean, I hired this person, but I think that's the other problem as kind of a sidebar to this whole thing is I think when you build a personal brand is you have a lot more, you build up so much more trust, right? So the person really buys more into you as a person more than to the product. And it almost allows you to this kind of sounds bad, but almost take advantage of that trust a little bit to where your product could be pretty bad. But because you've built so much trust with that person, you can kind of sell them anything and they feel happy because they know you, if that makes sense. It's like that parasocial relationship that gets built. It gets paid off when you jump into the program, and then it just doesn't work out. So going back to the thing is just whatever course you jump into, right? Again, I'm gonna give another shout out to Omar. Is Omar is teaching social media marketing, branding, building podcasts, right? Like how to build a personal brand. And I love being in his community because it's like he's doing the thing, but he's also teaching as he's going along and using himself as a case study, which it goes hand in hand because it shows in real time that the things that he's doing are working. As opposed to a lot of these, coaches, and this isn't just in this industry. Again, this is like so many different industries that you see online, which is, it kind of sucks, but it's the way that it is. The reason I'm making this video is to open up your mind a little bit more, that you just got to make sure that, again, out of these three things, like number one, just make sure that they're consistently walking the walk. I will say that, I fell into this trap back in, when I had a real estate agency, for example, is, I was teaching realtors how to build YouTube accounts to generate leads. Now, I do believe I was good at what I was doing, right? And I think I helped a good amount of people, but there was almost like even just like my own personal feeling of like an imposter syndrome, because I wasn't like a realtor that was, doing it for myself. And that's ultimately why I stopped that business, is because I just didn't feel convicted in the product, even though I do believe, again, I was helping people. I wasn't just like taking people's money, but it's from a standpoint of like, it's just that trust factor, right? I wasn't actively doing that thing. Before I had that business, I was, a partner in this other program where we're teaching other agencies how to grow. I built my own agency, and then I stopped building my agency to teach people how to do that. And then it was just this cycle of like, I was teaching things that worked for me, but it wasn't like in the time as things were going on. So that's kind of the beauty of, what I'm doing now is I'm teaching this stuff as I'm doing it, right? I'm teaching you guys about social media of not only what I've learned in the past, but also what I'm actively doing on a daily basis, and then just like giving that to you guys. And there will never be a point where like I teach social media, but I'm like not doing it, because luckily it is kind of like synergistic hand-in-hand thing where I have to like do it and I have to walk the walk to showcase how I'm doing it. And then the other part of it is, the remote closing academy, right? It's like I'm actively doing sales on a daily basis, and we're teaching people how to do sales. So it goes hand in hand, so I can feel fully convicted in the fact that like I know how to teach sales because I'm doing that every day. I know how to teach social media because I'm doing that every day, and I've been doing it for the last 16 years. So anyway, that's step number one, or tip number one that I would give, is just make sure that the coach that you're working with is walking the walk and not just talking the talk, and continuing to walk the walk, not walked the walk, right? Past tense walk. They're continuously doing it on a daily basis. So anyway, that's number one. So number two is really, and this is going to be a little bit of a touchy topic, because I don't want to ever be the person to, put value on somebody, put worth on someone, or someone's like number or a price point on someone specifically, but just something to understand is price points versus what you get, right? What are you getting from a course that you buy, and what are you getting, and what is that priced at, right? So I believe, like, if you want to be this in long term, like for the long term, is you definitely need to price your thing, right? Whatever you're doing, or buy into something that you are like getting infinite amounts of return on that, whether that's for your time, whether that's for your money, whatever it is for you. Let me take one little back sidestep a little bit, and just kind of give you an idea. We've as a company, right? We've made a return on every single course that's in here, right? Like this is the thing that like when I jump into any course, I always like calculate, okay, what did I learn from this course? And what did me taking action on a specific thing from that course, was I able to ROI from that specific program, if that makes sense? So for example, if I jump into a course and they teach me a specific like DM strategy, right? And that DM strategy then leads to a sale, I look at the price of that program, and then how much have I been able to ROI? And after I ROI on that, let's say I spend $15K, once I make the $15K back, it's like, okay, I'm good, right? The problem though is most people that jump into these programs is they are not set up for success in the way that I am. And I don't mean that in like an arrogant, like cocky way. I just mean that it's like, I am a little bit, I have that cheat code of, I have we have a sales team, right? We have people that are helping on the back end. We have people that are helping on fulfillment to where like I can just focus on making content, which is amazing. It's because what I love to do. But a lot of people don't have that. And that's a problem because, people go into debt to jump into these programs. And because the support isn't really there to help that person, it becomes a lot more difficult to then ROI in that program. So bringing it back here, when you're looking at some of these courses, is just understand like, what is the price point and what are you getting from that program? And do you believe that the things that you're going to learn in that program are going to give you that return? So again, this is going to be more specific to like ROI type offers where you're learning a skill set that's going to help you make more money. A little bit different when, you're talking about a weight loss program or something that isn't ROI based, right? Because the benefit, I guess the benefit, any way that you spin it, it could technically be an ROI offer, right? Like for example, if it's a health program, it's like, you can invest in your health now or invest in your health later in medical bills. I guess take some notes. Anyone that does fitness training, that's a great way to handle objections if people say that's too much money. So anyway, so this is the way that I would break it down is price points versus what you get. So the things that I'm always looking for when I'm jumping into any of these communities is support, right? What is the support that you're getting? So how many group calls are there? How many, is it one-on-one versus group? Is there like an active community of people that are, constantly doing what you're wanting to do? Like, what does that support look like? Also, the community aspect. So like, is there a community? Is there like, how many people are in that community? What is the demographic / experience of the people in the community? What are the resources that come within the community? So is there a course? Is there call reviews? Is there video reviews? Is there, whatever it is? And really just kind of put that all into a almost a price for yourself, if that makes sense. Now, I do think this is where we kind of, or maybe it's set a little bit of a wrong expectation for myself, or I kind of like, I'm almost spoiled in a way, is, one of our programs we have, our sales coaching program for everyday people, right? RCA, it's $9,800, right? Almost 10K. But we have 36 group calls a week. And the reason we can do that is because, we're a relatively large company. We have, I think at this point, like 7 or 8 like full-time coaches dedicated to, to one-on-one coaches for each of those students. So when someone pays 10K, is they're getting access to, again, almost 40 group calls a week. They get a one-on-one coach that they basically have 24/7 access to. They have just so much resource that they have access to our back-end pipeline where we'll like literally help them get placed with jobs. Like we just have so much value within what we do. And then when I compare it to, let's say like the 15K program that I jumped into, one group call a week. And that group call is super half-assed. And the community, right, is also a community of like no negative towards anyone, but just people that are a little bit newer in their journey. So it's like I can't really learn much from other people within the community. Just a lot of like just the systems internally, like the onboarding was really bad. Again, with like when I'm saying a 15K program, it's like that's like the elite, but at the same time, it's like you can't really I never want to tell someone like you can't price it at that price point because it's, the pricing is in the eye of the beholder, right? Like you can price it at 50K if you wanted to. Like it doesn't really matter. But when I'm talking to you as the audience and being conscious of that should be a red flag, right? A massive red flag. And for someone it's going to take a little bit longer for them to ROI. I've talked to 5 or 6 people that are within this 15K, program, and almost every single one of them are just disappointed. They're like, I thought this guy was like the best in the space. I thought this was something that, I was going to be able to, make the return. And I think there's one guy specifically that I talked to that's been able to, do pretty well, but it's because he already had an established business. He already had a sales process in place. He already had all this stuff. So it's like, when the expectation is set improperly and you don't already have a lot of those systems in place, it becomes really difficult to ROI and for it to make it make sense for them to invest into something like that. So again, I'm trying to get in front of people before they make those decisions And yeah, so I think just like the thing that I've been able to get the most value out of in a lot of these programs is just like is just being able to take the information and run with it. Like back to the whole example that I gave of when I jump into programs, I'm always looking for like, how can I make the return as quickly as possible, right? From the things that I'm learning. That's like the first thing that I do. I think a lot of people, they'll go into a program and they almost fall into this trap of like information overload or, analysis paralysis. And because it's so much information, they don't end up taking action. And, not necessarily a bad thing, right? But it's just when I go into a program, that is like my immediate expectation is how do I ROI on this as quickly as possible? I will add, I didn't put this in the notes here. I'll jump into number 3 here in a second, which again, how another one of the ways of like how I get just the most out of some of these courses. And I recommend anyone doing this exact same thing because you get so much more out of these programs if you do this. But a huge piece that is missing in every single, I can say out of all these programs, all 9 of them, they're all missing this one thing. And it is how to do sales. And I know it seems like a roundabout way of me to just try to like send you to a program or a course or something. That's not it. I won't even link to anything down in the description or the show notes. But it's like so many of these courses are around here's how to make content, and here's how to, gain more followers. And that's cool. But the problem with that is, okay, cool. You can have, 100,000 followers, but if you're terrible at offer creation, if you're terrible at sales, if you're terrible at having conversations, if you're terrible at conversion, right? All those things that are in the end going to make you money and help you ROI on the things that you're learning it's very difficult to make that return. Right. So if anyone that's like watching this that like does currently have a course, it's funny, like, and I mentioned that to basically all the, like everyone in all these courses, and they're like, yeah, I don't really like sales. And I'm like, bro, you don't say. But again, back to that whole personal branding thing is, some of these guys are doing, 100, 200, 300 grand a month. And it really is because they've built such a strong personal brand on the front end. Is, again, not wanting to come off negative, is they kind of take advantage of people. It just is what it is. They can sell their thing and do it in a pretty simple way because they've built up enough goodwill in order to bring people in on some of these higher price points, even though it might not be worth it. Another recommendation, that I would give to anyone that has a course that's watching this is just make it more about the client. You know what I mean? Like some of these higher, not even just the one that I was talking about, the 15K, but pretty much all the other, these courses other than, Omar and the FYP squad, we'll call them, is they're just not around, if that makes sense. And I get it, right? Like you start this business and you start making money and now you have the money to go travel and things like that. But just don't forget who's paying the bills. You know what I mean? Don't forget like the you being able to produce these programs and, get them in front of people is because you are, because you're good at what you do. But, it sucks to see some of these coaches that like they teach social media and haven't posted in months. And it's like, bro, what are you doing? This is my call out to you. Do better. So anyway, that's just my recommendations to someone that has a course out there. Just do better, offer more support, really dive into your clients and making sure that they see success. That's like at the end of the day, that's what that's what I would do. So last point here, how to get the most out of these courses is I do think, of course, a lot of these, back to the example that I gave, is I was able to make a return on these programs because I implemented the information. But the other aspect of this that is massively, I think, undervalued a lot of times is the community aspect. But the community aspect in a way of not just like posting in a group or like engaging in the group, but like making it a point to reach out to some other people that are in these groups and make it a point to like create a relationship with that person, right? And that relationship, could literally just be like following them on social media and liking their content, right? Or, what I do with a lot of people that I see that are active in these communities is I'll shoot them a message and be like, hey, like, love how active you are in the community. Would love to jump on a 30-minute to an hour conversation just to learn more about you and how I can help. And what it does is, I mean, out of all these courses, I'd say, we've probably signed, 3 or 4 high ticket clients for our STA side, right? That I've been able to refer over there to the B2B, our B2B side. I've helped a ton of people with sales, right? Been able to like give recommendations and sales tips to some of these people. Some of them I'm getting scheduled on like this podcast here. I mentioned it at the very beginning of the series, but I do plan to bring, guests on that I've met in some of these courses. I have about 3 or 4 people that I've like locked in that are ready to go. And just making like genuine connections with people, because it's these social media online streets are rough sometimes. Especially, I mean, I live in the middle of Arkansas, so I'm just here with the fam, and we're hanging out, and I don't, other than like networking events and some of our internal client events like that, obviously I can meet people out there, but just having these conversations with other people and just learning more about them and seeing, how can I help you? It also just broadens broadens out your network a little bit, to where, let's say you're creating content or you're having these conversations and someone you find in this group is like, oh, actually, I do need help with what you offer, or I know this guy that needs help with what you offer. And it provides you a network of people that are already like winners, because they see the value of investing in themselves. And when someone is willing to put, $10,000, $5,000 out there for a program, is you already know that person is operating a lot different than the rest of society, right? A lot of people that that are outside of like the entrepreneurial realm, we'll say. So just a huge piece of advice I would give is, if you're currently in a program or a mentorship or a course, whatever it is, just make it a point to to reach out to those people. Another thing as well is document your journey within that program in the program. So again, if you're paying for anything, well, I guess a lot of low ticket communities have this as well. And that's another big thing that's popping up, is just low ticket communities on School. And, as Sam and Alex are building those things out. But, these low ticket communities, or I'm sorry, any community is going to have like a community aspect, whether it's on Circle or School or Facebook groups, or, all these different platforms. Is there's an ability to like post in like a forum, right? Whether it's like in the Facebook group on the wall, or the I think it's called communication, or community section on School. Is what I like to do is I'll just like document what I'm doing based on the information that's within the group, and then I'll post it. And then a lot of people within the group, they kind of see that as like motivation, because they're like, oh snap, like this guy joined the group and he's implementing the stuff, and now he's seeing that it works. So it kind of like offers that motivation. But then also what it does is it builds that kind of like that effect where people then come to you. And I'm not saying you have to like coach people, but I see a ton of value in that, being that like, hey, let me create these communities and create these relationships with people. And then, hey, maybe down the road, I can refer them out to somebody else, and then maybe get a kickback for it. Or I can, and it doesn't always have to be the, money or a kickback or anything, but it could just be like, hey, I just want to help that person out. They can help me out. And it just becomes this really synergistic thing. But very similar to social media. It's like, if you post something, you're like more likely to get, you're more likely to get the attention of people. Same thing within some of these groups, is almost treat that as like an incubator of being able to find people and really build out your network. I'll end it with the generic quote of, you are the 5 people that you surround yourself with, right? You are the 5 people that you are closest to. And if those 5 people are winners within these groups that are active and that are killing it, right, you are going to be those people. And again, in a world where, everything's online, and, a lot of times we're all entrepreneurs in our office for 8 hours a day. I think it's really important to continue to build out a network and continue to network with people that are winners and that are in that same place, that want to succeed. You know what I mean? And as a byproduct, if you're in that circle, you will feel a lot more influence to continue to ride that same ride and hit the new levels that you never thought was possible by yourself. So That being said, we'll go ahead and end it on this episode. Thank you so much for hanging out. If you're on the YouTube app, make sure to comment down below and let me know what you think. If you jumped into any programs recently, what are your overall thoughts on those? Don't name the specific program, or course or whatever. But just let me know your overall experience with that. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Also, if you're listening on the podcast apps, make sure to go check out or leave a review if you like. Also, check out the YouTube side. All the links in the show notes on the podcast side will lead over to YouTube, and the YouTube will link over to the podcast if you are someone to view podcasts or listen to podcasts more than watch the YouTube side. So appreciate you guys. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments below. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Talk soon. Peace.